Lab, we'll be studying the anatomy of hearing. We know from when we did the temporal bone and studying the skeletal system, the petrous portion of the temporal bone had some of the ear structures inside of it. Today we'll see specifically the middle ear and the inner ear are located within that temporal bone. We can divide the ear into three regions. The outer ear we're going to call the external ear. Then we'll take a look at the middle ear, also known as the tympanic cavity, and then we'll take a look at the inner ear. The outer ear consists of what we really can see from the outside predominantly. That is the auricle. The auricle contains actually two parts known as the helix and the earlobe, or we can refer to that as the lobule. So all of this out here that we can see on everybody, this is going to be called the auricle. This rim right over here is known as the helix, and then at the bottom, kind of hanging down, this is going to be the lobule, or what we commonly would call the earlobe. The second part is going to be the external auditory or external acoustic meatus. Right? If we kind of put a Q-tip in here to clean the ear, that would go this far up into here. And that would lead then to this membrane right over here called the tympanic membrane. This is very simply the eardrum. So this kind of marks the border of the external ear from the middle ear right over here. Right? This middle part of the ear or the tympanic cavity, which we're going to look at next. Here it is on our model. Here again, we can see the auricle. Nice and easy, the helix up on top. Now this doesn't have a good lobule or earlobe, but it would be down over here. Right? We kind of identify the whole auricle. Then we can see the external acoustic meatus, right? And that leads up to this right here. This would be our tympanic membrane. And you can see everything here is within the petrous portion of the temporal bone. So this is just the rest of the petrous portion of the temporal bone. We'll take this part off on our subsequent pictures to take a look at the middle ear and the inner ear. That brings us to the middle ear. Like I said, we can call it the tympanic cavity. The big prominent features here are the auditory ossicles. These are three bones in the middle ear that are vibrating, and they're actually responding to sound waves that come into your ear. Their basic job is to take the sound waves from the tympanic membrane, which was the eardrum, and bring it to a window in the cochlea, which is part of the inner ear, known as the oval window. So it's kind of making a connection between the eardrum and the cochlea. Right? The function here I put for you is to amplify the sound waves from the tympanic membrane to the oval window. So let's take a look at those bones. And this is just now of the middle ear. You can see here the tympanic membrane or the eardrum. Connected to the tympanic membrane, this first bone is the malleus. The malleus is connected to the incus. And we don't see the whole thing here because a muscle is in the way, but we'll look at it after. This is the stapes. Stapes. Some people say stapes. Okay, so malleus, incus, stapes. Let's take a look on our model. So again, here's the external acoustic meatus. Here's the tympanic membrane. So right up against the tympanic membrane is the malleus. The malleus is connected to the incus that has this little handle right here. And then the incus is connected to the stapes. Stapes means stirrup, so it looks like a stirrup. And this stirrup, or the stapes, is hitting the cochlea, which is over here. There's a little window. We don't see it because the stapes is attached to it, but that window would be the oval window. I'm going to go back for a moment. We don't see it on our model the way I have the picture, but there's another little window, the round window. This actually helps to relieve pressure within the cochlea. If pressure were to build up, this is actually like a relief valve that's known as the round window. All right, so those are the main structures as far as the ossicles. There's another important structure known as the auditory tube. We also hear the name the eustachian tube. probably hear less the pharyngeotympanic tube, but auditory and eustachian is what we hear mostly. This is a tube that connects the middle ear to the pharynx, and it's a way that we can equalize the pressure. Let's bring it up. It's a way that we can equalize the pressure between the middle ear cavity and the outside world. And you can see right here from the middle ear cavity, the tympanic cavity, there's a tube going down to the throat. This is what you actually feel when you're up in a plane that's maybe not that pressurized, or you're driving in the mountains and your ear pops. That's the pressure trying to equalize. Clinically, this is important too. When somebody gets a viral infection in the throat, let's say, the pharyngitis, we call that, the virus can make its way back up here and enter the middle ear and cause a ear infection. Right? We call that otitis media. So this is, again, the main structures are auditory ossicles, the tympanic membrane or the eustachian tube. Right, I put the, I'm sorry, not the tympanic membrane, the auditory tube or the eustachian tube, right behind the tympanic membrane. And then the round window, which would release pressure from the cochlea. Finally, the last part of the ear is the inner ear. Now, there's a central area within the inner ear called the vestibule. This contains some specialized sensory cells that actually help to monitor linear movement. If we were to just kind of go on our chair that's with rollers and kind of roll back and forth, these sensory cells would kind of pick that up. They also respond to any gravitational changes. This vestibule actually has two parts, the utricle and the saccule. I'm going to jump ahead for a second. So we'll see here in a moment, this snail-looking structure here is the cochlea. This is where we perceive our hearing, and this side over here is more the vestibule, where we're going to be involved with balance and that type of thing. So this whole middle area here is the vestibule, and these upper structures here and these lower structures, they're the utricle and the saccule. Okay, so the receptor cells are within that vestibule. Attached to this vestibule, we also have three large tubes called the semicircular canals. Now, these are more important for detecting changes as far as acceleration and deceleration, right? If you kind of push forward or back, slow down, go forward and fast and back and forth, that type of thing. This is going to pick up those types of angular types of changes. And these are the semicircular canals. So we can see them. By the way, in our model, here's the vestibule. Then here's your 1, 2, 3 semicircular canals. Again, they're more involved with angular movement. This is more involved with linear type of movement. Finally, inside here, the snail-looking structure, this is our cochlea. And the cochlea, like I said, is a snail-shaped coil of tubes. There it has specialized nerve endings for hearing called the spiral organs, what we used to call the organ of Corti. These are the receptors for hearing, and they ultimately will connect to the 8th cranial nerve, which sends the information to the brain to interpret what we're hearing. All right. So again, this whole part back here is the inner ear, vestibule, semicircular canals, and then finally over here, the snail structure right here is the cochlea. And again, the stapes over here is stimulating those organ cells in the cochlea.